King joins us now from Long Island. Congressman King, what about this? And I'll put it to the judge as well. We've got the best prosecutors in the country here in New York City. The evidence against Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, even the evidence assembled before he was captured, is overwhelming. And if he were to beat this case, there are other charges to get him on, the murder of Danny Pearl. There's a pretty solid case here. I understand people have differing opinions, but you said that this is probably the worst decision a president could make.
Yeah, Greg, first of all, I agree with everything Janine said. And having said that, I still believe that, they can obtain convictions. But to me, the main issue, and the reason why I'm so critical of the president, he has effectively gone back to the pre-9/11 days. We are not treating these as acts of war. We're not treating these as war criminals. We're going back to the criminal justice days, which means that, for instance, when we captured Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the last thing we were worried about was getting a conviction in court. We wanted to get all the information out of him we possibly could. As a result of that, we probably saved hundreds of lives, if not thousands. Now, this is sending a signal, a combination of closing Guantanamo, prosecuting CIA interrogators, and giving civilian trials to these detainees. In effect, what we're saying is that we're going back to pre-9/11, that we're not going to be interested in getting intelligence information, but just getting convictions in court. And the conviction, in some ways, is the least important part of the whole process in a war.
I'm surprised that this has become such a partisan issue, though. I mean, look, we've gotten evidence out of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. There's perhaps nothing more to be gained from him. He was waterboarded 183 times. Let me actually go back to that. Janine Pirro brings this up. He has a pretty good case about this coercion and what these confessions do or do not mean.
Greg, first of all, I wouldn't say this is partisan. I would say the same thing if we were a Republican president. I try to be totally bipartisan on the issue of Islamic terrorism. And as far as I'm not even concerned about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed per se, but I'm saying the next Khalid Sheikh Mohammed we arrest or we detain. If we capture someone in Afghanistan who's close to bin Laden, does that mean now that we have to immediately give him his Miranda rights and we can't get all the intelligence out of him that we possibly can? This is a war of intelligence. The criminal part of it should be the least part of it. That's why we need the tribunals. Get all the information we can and then try them before a tribunal. Not be worrying about writs of habeas corpus, Miranda warnings, Fifth Amendment rights, Sixth Amendment rights. That's what goes on in a civilian case, not when you're dealing with war criminals.
And Peter,
we don't have the luxury.
Peter, you were in Congress when there was the Military Commissions Act that was passed as a result of the United States Supreme Court saying that enemy combatants, need to be tried, and we need Congress's permission. And in, I believe it was 2004, that act was passed requiring that they be tried in a military tribunal. To pull back now and retroactively give them constitutional rights, I believe puts a federal judge in a very difficult position of making a decision that waterboarding does not, amount to a coerced confession, or the fruit of the poisonous tree arguments are not relevant if you're an enemy combatant. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Janine, you could also see a case where a federal judge could just say in the interest of justice. You talk about the waterboarding, you talk about the 7 years to come to trial, you talk about the conditions under which he was held, the fact that he was arrested without a warrant, all of that. I can see a liberal judge or a civil libertarian judge saying that this shocks his conscience in the interest of justice. He's dismissing the charges. And also, to get the evidence into court, we may have to give up sources and methods and operational techniques we use to obtain the evidence, the overseas intelligence we use for a lot of this. This does not belong in a civilian court. It belongs in a military tribunal. During World War II, when 6 Nazi saboteurs landed on Long Island, they were captured and executed within a period of months. Military tribunals have been used throughout our history.
What about the security risks to our area? I know the police commissioner has talked out, and he said that we're going to be fine. We've got stepped up controls and things like that. But I mean, the bottom line is, should we be concerned that these guys are being tried right here in our backyard?
Well, I have the greatest admiration for Commissioner Kelly. The NYPD is the best in the world, and if anyone can do the job, they can. But again, the reality is we are the #1 terrorist target in the country right now. This is going to add to that. It's going to stretch the police more thin than they are now. And no matter how to me, it's an unnecessary risk that we're imposing on the country and on the city. So, yeah, the NYPD will do all that they can. But again, it just puts this extra threat, extra pressure, extra risk on the city, and there's nothing to be gained for it other than say in the eyes of the Arab world, okay, we gave these guys a trial, which they're going to use for propaganda purposes anyway.
Not just the Arab world, but the world in general. I mean, even President Bush, who you endorsed in 2008, of course, and supported them in 2004, was opposed to Guantanamo Bay. By the time his administration was over, he advocated publicly the closing of Guantanamo Bay. So there is this element, and it's a legitimate one, about how the world perceives us right now. You buy it?
Well, Guantanamo would be closed, but be done in an orderly fashion, not the way President Obama did it by setting a one-year deadline and still having over 200 detainees there. President Bush was trying to find an orderly way to place the prisoners and also do military tribunals for the others. But no one was going to rush to it. It could have been open for a number of years afterwards. And yes, there was a lot of world criticism. I think unjust. I've been to Guantanamo. I say it's a better facility than any American prison I've ever seen. This was really, I think, terrible, terrible public relations, which was only enhanced, I think, by people in this country who kept that myth going. But President Bush was never going to close it down.
I know Janine wants to say, Janine, Judge, Congressman, sorry, we got to wrap this up. Hey, give our best to Imus, by the way. Peter King appeared on the Imus show this morning. What?
Janine, just Guantanamo Bay.